Hello, everybody. This is the Chocolate News Podcast. I'm your co-host, John Alexander Reese.
And I'm your co-host, Andria Carter.
And if you did not know, the Cincinnati Herald has been around since 1955 and is the leading African American owned newspaper in the greater Cincinnati area and northern Kentucky area. How's it going, Andrea?
It's going great, John. I survived that storm last night. So,
Oh boy.
I mean, it was normally you're used to hearing tornado sirens once a month going off for a test, and that's it.
Yeah.
It is rare to hear them after 10 o'clock at night. And, I was on a Zoom call with family talking about an upcoming family reunion, and I had to turn down the volume because I was like, no, that can't be a tornado siren. No, that can't be. I went, oh, it is.
Oh,
The only good part about it is that by the time I heard the siren and realized that we were under a tornado warning, it was over at 10:15. And I told my sister who was on the Zoom call, and she was like, "Oh, you got 5 minutes. You're done. You're good. You're done." So, yes, my sister who lives in Florida, safe and sound. But anyway, other than that, it's summer, so it's gonna be hot. I would say lay in your supplies just in case. It is a good time to have batteries on hand, have candles or lanterns on hand, just in case, because these summer stores are heating up and they're going to get serious. So we just need to be prepared. And I encourage everyone to be prepared. I know this is also the beginning of hurricane season, I think in June. My sister's already down, she's down in Florida with my father in West Palm Beach. So she has her water, she has her batteries. I'm usually the emergency, or no, I'm the backup battery person. She has her lanterns. I bought her new lanterns last year, and now I have those same lanterns myself. So she's good to go. And basically they ride out category 1 and 2, but when it gets between 3 and 4, they hit the road. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens this year because they have not had a lot of rain. So we may see a little bit more activity than we need to this year down in Florida. So we just have to be watching, wait and see, and go from there. So, how are you?
I'm doing just fine. Yeah, I'm doing just fine. Like I said, storms were kind of wild last night, but you know what? It's like I can't wait for all these storms to be over, get some sunshine. That would be nice.
No, I was going to say, how did your dog react to the storm?
She's a baby. She just got under the bed and just hiding there until the storms were
Oh,
over.
oh,
I know she was a little scared, but
oh.
she did okay. I'm proud of her. I'm proud
Okay.
of her.
But we do have a guest. Yes, we do have a guest.
Yeah, so and it's actually Pastor Lesley Jones, and we will interview her in the later part of the show, talking about motherhood and Mother's Day, right?
Yes. Since it's
Okay.
it is coming up soon, so it's a wonderful day to cherish your mom, celebrate them, and even if you don't, if your mom's not here, you have a good family auntie, a grandmother, or just someone that is your second mom. So your choice, or I like to say your choice mom.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be good to talk with her about that.
Oh yeah. Now, last week we had some spicy chocolate news. I don't know if it's as spicy this week, but we still have chocolate news to go over. So, what is the chocolate news of the week, Andrea?
It's not spicy this week. It's a little low key, but still exciting, more historical. One interesting piece of chocolate news I wanted to let everyone be aware of. Twin sisters down in Louisiana bought a piece of history. They bought the Woodland Plantation. And what is interesting about the Woodland Plantation, their enslaved ancestors served on that plantation. And they wanted to preserve that piece of history, that cultural connection. So they bought that plantation so their whole family can enjoy and sort of preserve what it stood for, also bring a more positive viewpoint to it. They've also founded what's called the Descendants Project, which is a nonprofit that fights for historic and cultural preservation for descendants of enslaved people. It was their And what was interesting about the Woodland Plantation, it was the birthplace of the 1811 slavery revolt. Now, many of you may not have read about it in your history books, but it was that slave revolt was inspired by the Haitian Revolution. And folks took up arms and started marching toward New Orleans to seize the city, free some slaves, and establish a free state. Now, unfortunately, that revolt was stopped by the U.S. troops and local militia, and 100 people lost their lives. But it's a history. We don't hear about the slave revolt. We don't hear about what was influenced by what happened around the world to fight for freedom. And that's the reason why they founded their nonprofit. That's the reason why they bought the plantation. And they're the first Black owners of the plantation. It's located in Wallace, Louisiana. And so they are looking to look at buying other properties and or preserve properties to preserve Black history, because you don't see it all the time in history books. So I just want to give everyone just a little piece of history, and look out if you're ever in Louisiana, you're near Wallace, go down and take a look at the Woodland Plantation. So
Hmm.
that being said, another piece of history, Dr. Odell Owens. Everyone who was either heard of or knew Dr. Owens. He was a man, he was a doctor who helped women who had a hard time getting pregnant. He was president of a local community college. He was our coroner for a few minutes, Hamilton County coroner. He served that for a few minutes as well. And
Mm-hmm.
now, because he was just a great man who served the community and tried to do as much as possible, he passed away 2 years ago. I remember standing in line just to say hello to his family and honor him. I was in the line for I think an hour.
Wow.
It was a long line. A lot of people respected him. That's saying you never know who you touch until you
Mm-hmm.
die, and you see how many people come out to say hello or goodbye to you or the family. I mean, it was just a wonderful experience to see. But anyway, Cincinnati Public Schools has decided to rename a school in honor of Dr. Owens, and they're going to rename the Lighthouse School to the Dr. Odell Owens Center for Learning.
Oh, that's great.
And he was he believed in education. He believed in serving the community, but of everything, fertility expert, coroner, president of Cincinnati, and then excuse me, president of the Interact for Health. He was always teaching. He was always doing. And so this continues to honor his legacy, which I think is fantastic for him.
Oh yeah.
So congratulations, Dr. Owens, on that wonderful honor. So there's that. Um, then it's we always look to leaders, especially in unusual situations. ABC News hired Kim Goodwin 3 years ago to lead the ABC their news division, and she was the first Black woman to lead a major news division. It's very rarely done, and the higher up you see very little people of color. And she was not doors making the great decisions and upholding the news division. And she has decided to retire. Basically, she is leaving. Um, Disney owns ABC News, and she is leaving a significant void in the ongoing struggle for diversity in media leadership, because obviously, not having Black people in charge, we're lost in the sea of content that is presented to the public. But ABC, because of Kim Goodwin, you now see on streaming a number of Black anchors and reporters. Still, public broadcast on the regular TV channels, you see um, not so many Black people, but they're working on it. So her departure was a surprise. But I think she was leaving at a time that was probably either very, very stressful, or at the time was like, you know what, I'm done. I reached my goal and I'm out. So it's gonna be interesting where she ends up or where she lands. So she said Goodwin did say she was very optimistic about the future of media. And I think that as the industry continues to change from digital to broadcasting. Print is still there, but print is evolving. I think we're going to see niches come out, and I think we'll see a continuation and evolution of that niche. And I think we'll see people of color in leadership positions down the road. So sorry to see her go, but ABC News, they do their best to cover everything.
Yeah.
Then we have another historical moment. Every year the President Biden presents the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and he presented to 19 remarkable individuals, including he presented the Presidential Medal of Freedom to posthumously to Medgar Evers. He also gave it to South Carolina Democratic Representative James Clyburn. I believe he also gave Merle Beasley, um, who was Edgar's wife. I think she got one too. And then the other recipients of the Presidential Medal of Freedom was Michael Bloomberg, Father George Boyle of the Homeboy Industries, Senator Elizabeth Dole. Oh, yeah, that's a name you haven't heard in a while. Um,
Hmm.
Phil Donahue.
Yeah, that was
You remember
interesting.
Phil? He's from the Ridge.
I've heard a few Phil Donahue, but I think that was like before my time.
Yeah, he was like the grandfather of the talk show circuit, and he's married to Connie Chung, by the way. And
I thought that was Maury.
oh, that's right. I'm sorry. You know what? No, 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 no. I'm confusing my talk show host. Wind back. Connie Chung is married to Maury. Phil
Right.
Donahue is married to she was that girl, Thomas, Marlo Thomas. Phil Donahue is married to Marlo Thomas, whose
Okay.
father is the one who founded the hospital. That you see all the commercials for doing donations. Um,
Which
oh my,
hospital?
the one that is asking for donations all the time. Um,
Oh, is that St. Jude's
St.
Hospital?
Jude.
Okay.
Marlo Thomas's father founded St. Jude Hospital.
Really? Interesting.
Yes,
I did not know
yes.
that.
Yeah, he was quick story. He wanted to do something special. He had a vision, decided to found a hospital that served children who suffered from medical conditions but could not afford to pay for them. He wanted to create a place where they didn't have to worry about medical bills, but just get better. That's how
Interesting.
St. Jude got formed. Marlo Thomas has been their spokesperson, champion for fundraising, things like that, since her father died. And so very soon you're seeing her ease back because she's older now. But Phil
Hmm.
Donahue, Phil Donahue is her husband.
Hmm.
Al
Okay.
Gore, remember Al Gore,
Yeah, yeah, Al Gore, yeah.
Clarence B. Jones, he was the speechwriter for Martin Luther King.
Hmm. Okay.
Senator John Kerry, Senator Frank Lautenberg, ooh, some old heavyweights. Katie Ledecky,
Okay.
she was the Olympic swimmer.
Okay.
Opal Lee, she was an
Y-
educator, and she
Yeah.
was the one who insisted that we federally recognize Juneteenth. She
Right,
was the
yeah.
one who said we need to recognize that this should not be ignored, and she's the one who pushed that. Ella Oka, she is the first Hispanic woman in space. I should
Okay.
say Dr. Ellen Oka,
Yeah, right.
OSHA. Nancy Pelosi got a
Okay.
medal. Dr. Jane Rigby was an astronomer. Teresa Romero, Judy Shepard, Jim Thorpe, and Michelle Yeoh, the actress.
That
I
was
love,
interesting.
I
That
love
surprised me.
Jim Thorpe. You know who Jim Thorpe is?
I actually don't. I
Oh,
don't.
Jim Thorpe is the first Native American to win an Olympic gold medal. He broke
Wow.
barriers in the sport and in society. And Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, is named after Jim Thorpe.
Is it? Wow.
Yes, it is. And Jim Thorpe, his story, I got to know his story when I was a kid growing up reading autobiographies in elementary school. And then when I worked in Pennsylvania for a newspaper, I learned more about Jim Thorpe because his it wasn't far from the Poconos. Jim Thorpe, the town's not far from the Poconos.
Hmm.
So that's how I know all about that. So he's a name everyone should know and never forget. So, but those are the people who got Presidential Medal of Freedom. Congratulations to all of you. It's always sad when we lose people.
Oh yeah.
And it's unfortunate in Westchester Township. Was it three people who lost their lives?
Yeah, it
It,
was three people.
three because a driver was driving the wrong way on a road. These people died in a head-on collision. First, it was one that it was actually two collisions, but one driver caused it, which is unfortunate. But they were head-on collisions. 65-year-old Gregory Meyer from Middletown, 52-year-old Patrick Pelton of Liberty Township, and 52-year-old Nicole Collins of Liberty Township. They all died. And I believe one of them was a very beloved teacher and who died in the crash, which is sad. And I think, we just have to, it's always horrible when a mistake occurs.
Yeah.
And it's how this person got on the wrong on the road, I don't know. But Mrs. Pelton was the beloved teacher. She worked at she worked for the Butler County Educational Service Center, and she worked at that school. She was very well loved by the students and the teachers, and it was unfortunate that she died in this car crash. So I just want everyone to send up a little prayer for all those who lost their lives in this crash, and always be careful when you're driving, especially at night, which way you're going. If you're unsure, take the time to stop and look, make sure you're going the right way and not the wrong way, because the wrong way does have consequences. So,
Mm-hmm.
which is just so sad.
I
It is
know.
so sad. And another interesting thing that I came across, which the American Cancer Society is conducting a large national study, the first of its kind, on why Black women are dying of cancer.
Mm.
And where cancer research, well, cancer patients, the death by cancer has gone down in the country, but the numbers for Black women who are dying of cancer has not gone down. They have remained high. And so they're going to be conducting a study looking at quality of life, looking at who is receiving medical care, who's not receiving medical care. They want to determine why this is remaining so high. On, I could say a whole bunch of reasons why, but they're conducting this study. I would say you probably need to go to the American Cancer Society to find out how they're going about if you want to participate, if they're looking for people. I do know they're looking at quality of life, they're looking at the medical issues, they're looking at um, treatment, and they're looking at how people are and when people are being diagnosed. Now, unfortunately, they're also looking at how often do you go to the doctor as well. So
Right.
some women go too late, some women go early and catch it, and then it could turn. It's just a very interesting study that's coming about at this time. So I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention that if you have had cancer in your family and there were concerns, you might want to let them know what the concerns you had regarding coverage of that loved one during that time. So
Mm-hmm.
there's that. And last but not least, I want to say congratulations to Latrina Wright. She has been named the general manager of Cincinnati's newest hotel, which would be the Residence Inn by Marriott Kenwood. And it's a 134-room hotel that is coming online soon. And it's owned by the Commonwealth Hotels. And she is going to be the general manager. It's so rare to have a Black general manager of a major hotel in this region. And so I just wanted to say congratulations, good luck on the job. I hope you do well. The hotel is expected to open up this summer. So, they're scrambling, get everything in place, get people in and everything. So, congratulations to her. And that is all the chocolate news that I have for today.
All right, that's great. Thank you, Andrea. And now we're going to move on to the second part of our show. And I said earlier that we have Pastor Lesley Jones with us today to talk about motherhood and Mother's Day. So, Andrea, go ahead and take it away.
Pastor Jones.
Well, hello there. How are you? Pastor Leslie is just fine. I always tell people that Pastor Jones stuff scares me. It's that's so official, authoritative, and you know, that would have been like my grandfather, great grandfather. And
I
I'm
like
just
it when she fusses, so that's usually why I did it. But I mean, it's you have been a minister for a long time,
yeah,
and and
21 years.
21 years.
Well, 21 years I've been a pastor.
Pastor.
I've been licensed for about 30 years.
Ooh. But before we get into it, I just want to let you tell everybody who you are, what you do, and then we'll start the interview.
Well, first I'd like to thank you, Andria, and it's been a long time. We're catching up, I guess, through this today. But I have been pastoring 21 years. I'm the founder and visionary at Truth and Destiny United Church of Christ. And we're in the Mount Airy area of Cincinnati. Um, it's a work that I love and I thoroughly enjoy being a pastor. I love the people. But I happen to be sort of what they call a bivocational pastor. So that means that I also have a full-time job outside of pastoring. And so I am a faith organizer, the lead organizer for the Amos Project. And we uh, do grassroots organizing, particularly through faith institutions and organizing people of faith. And so I am working right now to build the Black Clergy and Church Coalition. And so I'm pretty excited about that work.
I've known you a long time, and it is always admirable to see you out in the community because you have your hand in so many pies. And but even when things are tough and it seems like something's going to happen, you always have faith and you always have a good outlook on life. And that is what I admire most about you. Because I mean, you see flitting around here and there, but it has been an honor to work. And but you're also a mom, besides a pastor. And are you a grandmother?
I am. Of I am a grandmother of eight. I
Okay,
have
see,
I
you
have
don't look
eight
like a grandmother,
wonderful
so
I have eight wonderful little people in my life. And I have raised five children. So two boys, three girls. So I am, yes, a mother and a grandmother, but I don't refer to myself and I don't allow my grandchildren to refer to me as grandma. They call me Gam Gam. So I am a great Gam Gam.
I I love these names. I used to call my grandmother Graham, so I understand that. Um,
Yeah,
but I mean, Mother's Day is coming up,
yeah.
and everyone, basically it's very commercial, you know, get the cards, get the flowers, all this. But you and I we got into a discussion about Mother's Day
Mhm.
and what it means, um, one for you to celebrate Mother's Day, but also what it should mean for the community to celebrate Mother's Day.
Wow. Mother's Day, started back 1907, right? Was maybe when the first Mother's Day was celebrated, first initiated by a woman by the name of Anna Jarvis. And her mother had been an organizer. That's what's so awesome, with women's liberation and suffrage movement. Her mother had been an organizer in that movement, and so she wanted a way, once her mother had transitioned, how to honor her, how to celebrate that. So, and with so many other women whose mothers were no longer, with them, um, she decided that she would have a memorial service. That's how Mother's Day began, to memorialize, and remember mothers who were no longer, living, who were no longer with their children, and so their children could not honor them, in those ways. So they came up with a memorial service, and some years later, I think about 7 years later, around 1914, Woodrow Wilson actually made it a national holiday to lift up and celebrate mothers. And it was quite, a grassroots movement, so to speak, a way to honor women who were fighting for their rights, right, for their freedoms. And so that's how Mother's Day really began. And it's had so many ebbs and flows over the years, but over time it became also what we call one of those hallmark holidays, right? Buy the card, buy the candy, buy the gift. And so it became commercialized. And so I don't know that Mother's Day necessarily lost its effect, but some of the meaning behind honoring moms and honoring those, who have, mothered or parented, um, uh, children. That was what it was about. And today, I think that, we are inclusive of all. And so we not only honor, a mother or a woman, I should say, who gave birth or adopted or however she became a mother, but also those who embody the mothering spirit. And maybe they never did, adopt or have a child, but they have a mothering spirit, and they have been that mother figure, that nurturer, and caregiver, to someone.
Oh,
And so, and at our church, we honor, and we always talk about honoring your mothers of birth, mothers of choice, and the mothering spirits, um, that you want to honor. So yeah,
I would say
that,
in light of what some people might deem the attack on women today, in terms of some of the many rulings that have occurred, some of the new state regulations that have been going on, do you feel that motherhood is being under attack, or being a mother is under attack, so to speak, because of all of these issues that have been going on regarding women?
yeah, I think womanhood is under attack, and I think that, it disrupts mothering, because now you've got to fight for just your personhood, and and then what happens is you become, a lot of women then become pulled and tugged in so many different ways, that mothering and really parenting, um, you're not sure which way to go, because in some ways, women have, the fact that women work outside of the home. I mean, there's a whole movement today. They call themselves trad moms, and trad is short for traditional mothers, that are, and if that's what you choose to be. But there's like big name people who are, giving up, women who are giving up their careers, to parent, to mother, to be at home, stay at home, raise their children. And they look at that as not a job. I raised 5 children. I don't think there's a day where I don't think I was working. And I'm not talking about going outside of my home. Being a mother is a full time, 365 5, 24 hours a day job for life.
Oh yeah.
And so no matter how many laws or policy changes we have, you will never be able to, I think, destroy the spirit of mothering. And I think that that is what some folks are attempting to do, or to shame a woman into having a certain type of role, because mothering is everything. There was a time when mothers, you know, had to teach all the children how to chop wood because there weren't men around, and they like to paint that as a picture that happens only in Black and poor communities, or brown and Black communities and poor communities. But even in the white community, men weren't around when there was wartime, right? So who was teaching? Who was teaching? Mothers. They were
Yes.
teaching, young men how to chop wood, how to, build a fire, how to hunt. So yeah, I think that, really mothering is uh, it's a part of our lives that we really cannot we can't ever point to it and say it's unnecessary, right? And so I think some of these laws are trying to also just attack women from the perspective of we don't have maybe the intellect and the stamina to really, do a job. But we do a job as a mother every day.
I think that some of the things that have been going on is not just an attack on mothers, but
Mm-hmm,
it's also an attack on parenting.
mm-hmm,
Because I'm, a number of our young people are in trouble for whatever reason. And I'm hearing all of these excuses on why we're not holding parents accountable. And some of these parents are single family homes with the mothers in charge. And it, to me, is like, how do you fix the perspective of don't have a low standard but have a high standard for parenting, for mothering, when, and especially in difficult times like these that we have right now. How do we overcome that, um, to build a positive perspective about parenting?
um from my perspective is that we recognize what responsibility a person who's parenting has been given by being able to mold, shape, conform another human being. And thinking about that, that's a valuable, that to me is what the most valuable thing that I could do. There was no manual for it, but I think that you know what we have to kind of counter this whole, as you said, attack on parents, and what parents should be, is we understand what parents are. Parents, and you know parents are the guide. They're guiders. They're to guide and help other humans. Like, we have to stop thinking of children as these incapable, human beings that don't have a mind, don't have a brain. They do, but it needs to be nurtured and guided and shaped, not dictated to. And in some parts of even our culture, that is so deeply rooted in oppression, that our parenting styles became more about dictating and being dictators on one end, and now we've kind of, I see a pendulum swinging so far to the other side, that we are being so democratic with children, that there is no authority and the lines of authority are blurred. And that is and I think that a part of what helps that are crazy policies. um, don't necessarily investigate situations of abuse and what's going on, but have blanketed um, in roles for parents. So dictating how I can discipline my child, and not understanding that, every child is different. And but there's some policies that want to dictate to me how to parent, but not necessarily teach me, because there is no manual, and I don't get any lessons until the child's here, and then I don't get any help until I mess up.
Mm-hmm.
And so mhm.
I would say, what can we, um, for you as a mother, what did you turn to that helped you raise 5 children and be a wonderful gam gam to grandchildren?
Well, I turn to my faith. I turn to the lessons that I learned as a girl, growing up with grandparents in my life, as well as parents. My parents were young. My parents were, I'm a product of a teenage relationship and marriage ultimately. And so my mom was 17 years old. What did she really know about parenting? But thank God for having a mother and a mother-in-law, and a father and father-in-law that kind of took her by the hand and said, "Hey, look, you know, this is how you do some of these things." And so in turn, as I got older and my mother, and I would have conversations, I leaned on those things. And I remember at 14 years old, my mother looked me in the face and told me I was grown. And I was like, I'm 14. I'm thinking I'm 14. And she's telling me I'm grown. She says, yes, I've taught you everything that I can teach you. You know right from wrong. And now it's time for you to start making decisions and choices based on what you've been taught. That was the one lesson for me, and the one conversation with my mother that has guided me through life and through being a parent myself, is that I began at a very young age to help my children to understand that everything in life had came with consequences, and they had choices and they could choose which of those they wanted. Therefore, I wasn't going to be a punisher, but I would be a disciplinarian. I would discipline you, but I will not beat you. I will not, you know, yell at you and do all the things to try to cajole you to do right. I'm just going to simply let you face and deal with consequences. And here's my rules, and here are the consequences if you don't follow them. That is so hard for a lot of people because of this oppressive mentality that a lot of folks have, and this the authoritarian kind of ideal people have about parenting. Parenting is really about coaching. It's really about guiding. Coaches guide you. They give you some plays, tell you to learn them, and then you go out here and win the game. And that's the approach that I've had about parenting and being a grandparent. I love it much more as a gam gam than I did as a mom. Because yeah, I was going through the things, we were trying to, raise kids, buy a house, do this, do that, and I have both biological and adopted children. So um, that's major, to have a child, birth a child into the world, and then choose to parent others. Because
Mm-hmm.
and so for me, that was big, and I was young when I adopted my children. I wasn't, and single. So doing that by myself, for quite a bit of their lives, um, was was major. But I mean, we because we were in this together, and I think if people could approach that. Now, where do I get that from? I find it right here in the text of the scriptures, um, that while Exodus 20, reminds us to honor our mother and our father, you know, we go over to um, uh, Ephesians, which tells fathers, don't aggravate your children. So basically, parents, don't aggravate your children. Don't push them to anger. So there's a balance. If you honor and respect, I also have to give some honor and respect. And I think that the Bible for me says that to me. It did not
Okay.
tell me, yes, there's a scripture that says, spare the rod, spoil the child, but that didn't mean beat your child.
True.
That meant to correct them, yes, to discipline them, but the methods of disciplining, I find nowhere in the Bible that tells me to put stripes on their back. That's deeply rooted in an oppressive, ideology of how to control someone. I don't have children. To this day, I don't control them. Never controlled them. You know, even as little people, right? Little humans. I always looked at my children as little humans, not babies, that but people that needed to be guided. And I think scriptures say that to us. And that's what I try to teach even in my congregation, and teach them you got to pray for your children. You have to pray over them and pray with them. And sometimes it was all about I got to pray for them. And so
Mm.
you never prayed with them, so they never learned how to pray for themselves. But that was something I tried to teach my children how, because you know, at 21 years old, I had a 2-year-old. My first time teaching, right? I'm graduating from college. I have a 2-year-old. I didn't know how to manage my money. And I remember the first time I didn't have all the rent money because I chose to buy some shoes or something crazy I did or something. And I was like, oh Lord, we're gonna get evicted. I don't know what to do. My son, he's 2, he don't know what evicted means. And I said, we're gonna live outside if we don't pay the rent. He said, how we get the rent? You know? So I said, we're gonna pray, then mommy gets better wisdom, learn how to manage this better, and we find a way to pay the rent. And so that it prayed and it happened. I got a bonus from my part-time job that I didn't know I was gonna get. Oh, thank you, Jesus. We paid the rent. And he learned how to pray. So and from then on, like whenever something happened, we got to pray about that. He used to pray for like treats at the store. He was like, my mommy's gonna say she doesn't have money. God, could you please give her enough money so that I can have some gummy worms?
That's cute
Yeah.
there.
Um, and I think those are the things that you do. Um, and people are so stressed out now, right? I mean, I had stress, but there's so much stuff that even stresses out kids, that they can't even sometimes be kids, because they're so weighted down by the stresses and pressures, that adults should be dealing with.
So, just out of curiosity, I sort of have a feeling that we just heard what the sermon's going to be on Sunday, on Mother's Day. But what recommendation would you give people going into honoring and cherishing? What do you have a special book or advice or we heard a passage from the Bible, but what do you hold dear to you that helps you get through as you mother your kids?
Yeah, it's a very old book. I still read it. I shared it with my children. And it is a book that I have got to remember the author of it now. But it's called Battle for the Seed. And it's sort of a manual on parenting, from a perspective of a woman of faith who understood that, this world, and there's an enemy of God that is out to literally, take your seed, which is your child, your children, and you have to learn how to battle for them. And the battle is not just about praying for them, but learning how to be their advocate at their school, learning how to help them to recognize things they need to really tell you about, learning that as they grow older, and they're teenagers, that's the time that they need you the most, and how to be able to have open communication with a teenage child that will, if you don't, will hide everything from you. Um, and so yeah, so that book is called Battle for the Sea, and that was a book that I've read over and over again. I used to pick it up, well, and it's more of it could be a reference. Like you could pick it up and literally, you know, I'm sorry, you're going through a situation, for example, with your child, and you could pick up that book and read it. Patricia Morgan, that was the author of that book. And it's called Battle for the Sea. It's an old book, but I think they've like updated it and things like that. But Dr. Patricia Morgan, she wrote that book. Something else I kept, it helped me, and I really share this to young mothers, and to all mothers. Children don't choose the circumstances that any of us or them have been born into. And things happen. So children are born in all types of situations, but you have to hold on to something. So one of the poems I held on to that helped me get through college as well was Mother to Son. And it helped me to, recognize that I was going to make sacrifices for my son, but I would have to help him understand the sacrifices. Um,
Okay.
you know, and so if I kind of stayed in that space, that kept me from doing a lot of foolish things that probably wouldn't have turned out the way they turned out.
Well,
So I'm proud of the five now adult uh, you know, children that have that, are all doing pretty well for themselves and their children. And many of the things that um, people, parents fear, my children waited later in life, and I had five goals or four rules and five goals: get you out of high school without a child yourself, and without a disease you couldn't get rid of, a police record, or addiction that we couldn't deal with and have it resolved. So those were our four goals. Like, and then the fifth thing, which was the number one goal, you're gonna graduate and choose your path. And all of them did that.
excellent.
And
Well,
so
that is fantastic, and I thank you
you're
for
very welcome.
for being and talking about motherhood and Mother's Day. I'll have to have you come back and talk about other things, especially about the Amos Project, what you're doing with them, so to bring you back for that.
I'd love
Um,
to.
and later on. So, but I want to wish you a happy Mother's Day.
Thank you.
Um, and John,
Yeah. Um, Thanks, Andrea, and thank you, Pastor, for coming on. I hope you have a good Mother's Day.
Well, thank you. I don't know what I'm gonna celebrate my mother, who is still with us. She is 75
Oh,
years
wow.
young.
that hang on to that time because when
Yes,
she's
yes.
gone because my mother actually, unfortunately, Mother's Day it lands on the fourth anniversary of my mother passing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and but even though number one, my sister, we can't believe it's been 4 years. But we're remembering her. We make stuff, we talk about her all the time. And we always say stuff like, well, what mom would say if you did that. So so she's still in spirit around us and everything. So I just want to wish you again and family, all the mothers in your family, happy Mother's Day. And
Thank you.
um, fantastic conversation.
Likewise. And we, just enjoy your mom's memory, and still celebrate all that she poured into you. Yeah,
Oh, I am. Oh, trust me.
I know you will.
I'm
Have
probably
her
gonna end up
favorite
baking.
dessert.
Yeah, that basically, like I was gonna say, I'm probably gonna end up making something that in honor of her. So, she loved
Right.
cooking, so I'll probably end
That's
up cooking
right.
something. So,
That's right. Great. Well, it's great time with you guys.
All right, well, that's it for today's show, folks. I want to thank Andrea again for all the good chocolate news. Always appreciate it, Andrea.
you're very welcome.
And remember, folks, you can find out More information about today's topics and past podcast episodes at www.cincinnatiherald.com, the Sesh newsletter, or on our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Threads. And make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. Our podcast is on Apple, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Amazon, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. And to all the mothers listening to our podcast, we hope you ladies have a happy Mother's Day. I'm John Alexander Reese,
And I'm Andrea Carter.
and have a good day.